Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to your 10th session of Book Clubs Across Borders between Sargodha and Herat. The book that we are discussing today is Threading My Prayer Rug, written by Sabiha Rahman. This book is basically a memoir. Sabiha Rahman wrote down all her thoughts, all her experiences that she went through when she got married at a very tender age of just 20 years old. When she was just 20 years old when she got married, and she moved to America from Rawalpindi to America at a very young age with her husband, and she rediscovered herself as a Muslim. She rediscovered Islam, and she worked a lot on interfaith harmony over in America. So we will be discussing this book today. But before we go towards our students, I would like to ask my colleague Ayman Imran to give a brief summary of this book, to share her views, and then we will go towards our students and get their views. So Ayman, over to you.
All right, so I'm just going to give a little summary of Threading My Prayer Rug. It's by Sabiha Rahim, sorry. Basically, it's a story that revolves around a 20-year-old woman who accompanies her husband to the US from Pakistan for his medical residency. So the entire story revolves around her multi-layered experience of building a community in America and life in America with her alongside her faith, the culture shock that she experiences, and how she grapples with the journey of how to make sense of her faith in a new culture and community, whilst being a minority and a woman as well. So there are added layers that she has to navigate through in order to build a life there and make sense of her own identity and the identity of the community around her. So the story has many nuances, very little things that sort of depict these larger struggles that she faces. For example, a very sort of a detailed description of the customs and the social ideals that are valued in Pakistan, specifically related to marriage and arranged marriages and the entire process of marriage as well, right? The rituals and all, and how that is put sort of in a comparative framework against life in New York City, and how the people over there make sense of such rituals and, small acts like the act of namaz or worshipping, or the wuzu that is performed before it. So in general, the larger sort of narrative is the question that how to be wholly Muslim and wholly American at the same time. And that larger narrative question then brings forward smaller stories that revolve around customs, society, the validity of arranged marriages in American society, and other sort of thoughts on identity. Right, so it is a chronicle of interaction between faith, culture, and even attitudes, right? I think another striking feature of the story was how she experienced her religion in an entirely new sense, that she had to, that in Pakistan, we experience religion culturally rather than personally. But since she was relocated to a culture that was very different from the one that she experienced here, she had to now understand Islam, her faith, in an entirely personal sense, completely isolated from the larger structures that culture provides us with. So the question then was that how does her faith look like in this new country, and what it is like to live in the United States as a woman, an immigrant, and a minority, these three layers, right, and building a community through that. She, of course, realized this even more after having children, and the story also sort of mentions an entire episode of how the family began to gather funds for a mosque on Staten Island, and there were questions on language as well, the language of instruction which would be adopted in these in the mosque, and how the children are multilingual and sort of live this life where they grapple with and are comfortable with a multitude of cultures and languages and beliefs and ideas generally, and how that sort of makes up their identity, right? So there are episodes in which the family navigates around religious holidays like Christmas and Eid, and how at various points in her life, whilst creating this community around her and whilst creating a life there with her children and her family, and through this unit of this family unit living in the States, right, she stops at various points in her life to examine her faith and how to best experience it. And also how to best experience her own identity in this new place, where multiple sort of ideas and multiple overlapping, I think, faces of her identity create an entirely new one. So that's kind of it.
In the name of kind Allah, my name is Elias Mounes, one of attendant of this program. Because of some specific problem that we couldn't be able to have the online programs, and we have to save and record some videos. The book that we want to discuss about it's by the name of the Trading My Prayer Right. At first of all, this book has lots of funny book text and also some nice text that it is readable. For example, one of the points that this Miss say about his 40 years communication to change it to a love communication and his trip from Pakistan to United States American. For example, he says about his life into the United States American, and also about his wedding party to American, and some specific other cultures about American. For example, that they here till that Ramadan, no Ramadan, or not any Eid and other cultures.
Hi, this is Kausar. I have to say that I truly enjoyed trading my prayer rock story. Sabiha Rahman has a very engaging and conversational writing style that's easy to read and made me feel like I was sitting down having tea with her while she was telling me her life story. Bia was a stranger in a strange country indeed. She was separated from her own huge and loving family, and she confronted the stares of people who only knew Muslims as the bad guys in action movies, and even associated the word Islam with war, violence, and with terrorism. Another woman might have sat in the corner of a room crying on the phone to her parents until they sent a plane ticket home. But Bia wasn't one of those women. If there was no community, no Muslim community waiting for her in the United States, she would create one.
In the name of Allah, as you know, the teaching of the children is a few hard, and the family is a good start to teach them. Also, parents is the first teacher of the every children till they go out and for studying, and the children studies start from the bedtime stories. And in Islamic family, while the children grow, and they should know what is legal and illegal. And also in the Trading My Prayers books, I did study ridiculous stories. It was opinion common between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and that they think if they cover the Quran, they did respect it, but it is wrong, because the respect of the Quran is not a covering of that and put it on the shelf, on the uppermost shelf. And the respect of the Quran is just studying of that, reading every time of that, and having the meaning of that.
Hi, I'm Farmas Farhan, and I'm going to speak about this book, My Prayer Rags, that's written by Sabiha Rahman. In many ways, Sabiha Rahman's memoir, Trading My Prayer Rags, is an immigrant's story of assimilation, including difficulties and happy surprises that she discovered in the process of becoming American citizen. becoming American citizen, and and also in her young age she had to leave her family, Pakistan, and everything as a new bride of a young Pakistani doctor completing his residency in New York, and it was arranged marriage. And I think it's weird and hard to get married with someone you hardly know, or even you don't know him or her. Rahman admits in her books that she never having set foot in a mosque, or even observing as the designated time for daily prayer. But the birth of her son challenged Rahman to raise them with her cultural values in a foreign country, and she began to study and know more about Islam, and she proved that every Muslim can reach whatever they want, and wherever they live, they can reach to their goal.
This session we read a book by the name of Treating My Prayer Rock from Sabia Rahman. And when I shot the book, I found myself that saying how amazing and charming book. This was a wonderful story, the wonderful story of one woman's journey through both in physical and also spiritual. I think it was this book is according to the real life of the author, the Sabia, and I really like to read the Sabia Rahman life story. So I don't want to focus on the details. I want to say that some points that was interesting and also affirmative for me from this book. Sabia Bia Rahman was born in Pakistan up to 1971 at the age of 19. She married with Khalid, and then it was arranged marriage, and after the wedding they traveled to New York. They at first they believed that they will stay on that place in America just for 2 years. But when the 2 years are finished, they changed their decision, and they become in love with this country, and they want to live in this country, and they select as a second homeland the America. After that, Mr. Khalid and Miss Sabia tries to work hard, and she tries to train her children about the Islamic religion and Islam. And one thing that that happened in one big crash, on hard crash that happened in September 2001 in America. Most of the people of America, they have an incorrect PowerPoint from Muslims, and they believe that the Muslims are the terrorists. So Ms. Sabia tries to convince them that the Islam religion is completely different from the terrorist ideology.
In the name of Allah, the book Threading My Prayer Rock, which written by Sabia Rahman. In this story, the writer takes the readers on a journey describing what it's like to be Muslim in America. In this book starts with the interesting story of her arranged marriage, and also she tells about her growing up in Pakistan, about culture, customs, and how it's like to marry someone you hardly knew. Just days after their marriage, and after their marrying, they moved to America for her husband 2 years residency at a hospital in New York. But after 2 years, she ended up feeling in love with this country. So they remain in this country. And when her two sons were born, she realized that she wants to instill them a deep sense of faith and culture. So she started learning more about Islam, because before that time she always considered herself a devout Muslim. And when she wants to guide her children, he always he when she guides her children, she realized that her life in Pakistan had been really secular. So after years of learning and studying, she could reach to that faith in a more depth. So these changes helped her to shows that Muslims also can be a patriotic, an American, or anyone else. Thank you so much.
By the name of kind Allah, my name is Yasin and I'm taking this video to speak about the trading by prayer rack written by Sargodha Rahman. The book was about Muslims problem in United States, and Sargodha Rahman write so important problems of Muslim people. She start by her marriage party, funny points actually, funny points in her marriage party, and she had a big immigration in America, and she had to stay for 2 years to take to be a citizen of America, and she write some kinds of problem of Muslims in America, a kinds of how to be a good Muslim in there, and how to be train her kid to be good Muslims. And as a strong woman, Sargodha Rahman did it very well. And I actually was curious about how Muslims people live in another country. Another country. By reading this book, I learned lots of things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for connecting with us today. It was lovely hearing from all of you. Keep on reading, keep on sharing books, keep on exchanging books with your friends, and we'll see you next time, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.